We have talked about this before, but we're going to talk about it again because life skills being taught to people, like real life skills, like budgeting, how to cook, like all of these things that you have to do in day-to-day life. Budgeting is something you have to do every single day.
Every day. And you should be thinking about it.
To learn how to handle money.
Investing.
We were never taught these things.
No.
And unless you are choosing a path where you're choosing a path of that kind of career, like you're going to be a stockbroker or you're going to be a financial advisor.
Then, you're not necessarily getting the level.
Right.
Like you might learn how to invest other people's money, but maybe that's not how you're going. Maybe
it's different for you, right? And I get that everybody's situation is different and everybody has a different amount of money left over. But like, I feel like we all could benefit from having a coach or somebody to teach us to like look at our money and say, okay, this is what you're spending.
Yes.
I don't really want to know the answer to that. And I honestly don't want
that's the thing.
Anybody to hold me accountable either, but I do it to my husband. I'm like, sir, you have been swiping way too much. What are you doing?
But this came up for two reasons, because one is with the TikTok potential ban and everyone went to, what is it called? Red Note? Red Note.
I never downloaded that.
So they started showing, I didn't either, but they started showing schools in China because they started comparing like things in China to things in the U.S. And they started showing these schools and these little tiny kids, these little tiny people, and they're learning how to cook.
Yes.
And they're doing like drills with like basically dribbling a basketball, but they're learning like it's a motor skill, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing certain things with, even at a young age, like numbers and budgeting. And
wait, have you seen, these are old videos from TikTok, but I don't know what country it was done in, but maybe China. And there was a grown teacher in the front. They have a chair, and each child is in a chair, and the back of the chair has two balloons that are inflated on the back of the chair. And he's teaching them how to wipe their butts properly. So they have between the balloons.
I've missed this. I'm going to have to Google.
Between the balloons. It's the funniest thing, and I remember watching it probably like 4 years ago. And
why didn't someone teach my kid how to wipe their butt?
I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to teach them that. And maybe this is the problem. Maybe it's because we as parents don't want to teach our kids these things. But part of it is because I can only teach them from my mistakes. Yes. I've made many a mistake with money over the years and spending on different things that I shouldn't have and getting caught up in credit card debt that I shouldn't have. And so I try to instill that in my kids. Like, hey, learn from my mistakes. But I was also taught it's forbidden. You're not allowed to get a credit card. Don't do it. So what's the first thing you're going to do? Sign me up, yes, on the dotted line. And then when I got busted for it, because somebody called the house while she was home sick one day, and can I speak to Ms. Hudson? And she's like, this is her. And they were like, oh, we just wanted to know how you're enjoying your new Sears card. And she's like, oh, well, thank you for checking. I appreciate the call. And then she calls me at work, which I worked at Sears, by the way.
Oh, my gosh, that's awesome.
She was like, we need to talk when you get home. I'm like, okay. And I already knew I was in trouble because, like, the tone of her voice, I knew. And she's like, I need you to hand me the credit card from Sears, and we're going to cut it up. And I'm like, okay.
See, I
think my limit was like $200. It wasn't anything crazy. She cut it up, and then the next day at work, I called Sears, and I was like, hi. So I lost my card.
Can you send me another one?
My address has changed. I opened up a P.O. box that was not theirs in my own name. I was over 18. And I had them send it there because I was like, you're not going to tell me what to do. I am 18 years old. I'm a grown up.
Yes.
Yeah, I should have listened.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I feel like the whole concept of budgeting, how much money is coming in, how much you have to put aside taxes. Like so many people now are self-employed. Or if you do have the second stream of income where you're getting money from something else that maybe is paying you as a 1099.
What if you're an influencer?
Yeah. You're thinking of, okay, so maybe your regular employer is holding back taxes, but maybe they're not holding back enough because how did you fill out your forms?
Right.
Did you ask for enough to be held back? And then you're getting the second stream of income that's no taxes. Are you putting, you just don't want to get in trouble with the taxes.
Yeah. You want to make sure that whatever you owe, that you're able to pay and it's not a shock because a lot of people, a lot of self-employed people, I feel like, are shocked by what they owe at the end of the year.
And what are fixed expenses and what are variable expenses. And honestly, things we used to think were fixed expenses, like insurance, that's now variable because it changes all the time.
All the time. Every 6 months when your policy renews for your car, it goes up.
It goes up. So you need to know what are and how to do a budget and all these things. And I feel like, oh my gosh, these other countries are so far ahead of us in terms of like the whole school system. How we teach kids needs to be revamped.
I agree. As having children that are in the school system, like, we're teaching to tests over here. Is all we're doing. We're teaching to tests that are performance standard, tests, and not all kids learn the same way, but they're all expected to perform the same way, which makes zero sense to me.
Learning how to cook, like when I saw that video, the China thing, where the little, look it up. I'm telling you, little tiny kids learning how to cook.
They've learned how to cook for themselves if it's something easy, right?
Or cooking a frozen thing.
I need them to learn how to clean. And I have attempted to show them multiple times, but I need it to be something that like they are graded on. Maybe then it'll like stick. Like maybe if it's not me telling them to do it. I
feel like if someone else teaches them, they're more likely to listen.
Yeah. I can't imagine like homeschooling parents.
God bless you.
Yes, I could never.
You're amazing.
I could never. I don't have the patience for it. I'm not a good teacher.
No.
It's like I get frustrated because I'm like, I can just do this.
Right.
Right. Like you've seen the moms that are like helping, like letting their little kids help them bake cookies in the kitchen. I know. And I'm like, get out. You're going to make a mess and I'm going to have to clean it up.
I'm so thankful for Kyle because he's like teaching Jagger like something with the knife skills and stuff. And I'm like, first of all, it makes me nervous because he has bad fine motor skills. So I'm like, no losing a finger on my watch.
Right. Like, I don't have time for that today.
No. And I know that's,
My husband's like that too. He's like, we're going to just do it together. And I'm like, I'll never forget when Jacob came to me like with his old car and he was like, I'm going to change my oil. And I'm like, who taught you how to do this?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll figure it out. And I'm like, I don't feel like this is something we just figure it out with, but that's a boy thing.
Yeah.
My husband said when he was in high school, he took his mother's entire engine apart and she found it in pieces and she's like,
oh my gosh.
What are you doing? And he was like, I'll put it back. I was just tinkering with it. And he did. He put it back together. And I'm like, what gives you the confidence or the delusion that you can do this? But he did it. So kudos. I think some people are just, everybody has different minds. Some are very hands-on and they can see the things and like reverse engineer it. And then there's other people who are just more creative minded and artsy and, some that are very like numbers driven.
Which is good for figuring out what your job needs to be, but it's not good for figuring out your life skills and what you need just to survive in everyday life. And that's why I feel like the school needs to teach the things that you need to survive.
What are there? I wonder. I would love to hear from our listeners.
Like self-defense. Self-defense would be so good.
Yeah, that's an extracurricular. I put my kids into the jujitsu.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, just like a straight self-defense, especially, I mean, not that boys shouldn't know self-defense too, but for girls, self-defense or what to do. They should have dating classes. What to do when your date goes bad.
Yes. How to get out of it.
How to get out of a bad date.
Have a plan.
And don't get in a car with a person you don't know. That kind of, like, life skills.
These are things that, like, you do tell your kids, but how many of our kids, they don't hear it. It doesn't go beyond the wall.
They should all go to, like, Walmart at night and practice walking through and how to deal with, like, people who are, like, unsavory in the Walmart and how to get to your car safely.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm serious. I had to teach my daughter that. Like when you go to a car at night from a store, like how to pay attention to your surroundings and who's parked next to you.
Let me tell you, I was so naive and didn't pay attention to anything. And my husband is he's former military. Yeah. So he's always on alert. He sees everything. And like, I'll just be driving, let's say it's a 3-lane highway. Okay? Yeah. Kellie's just driving down the middle. Cars on both sides, and he's like, get out of this lane. I'm like, what's the matter? Like, what? He's like, you're blocked in, you have no exit. And I'm like, I'm driving. Like,
I drive in the middle.
Yeah, well, I don't anymore. And I'm very aware, like if I'm behind something for too long and the other side is open, he gets very frustrated if he's with me if I don't just go into the openness. I need to be in the openness and not behind the thing. Even though eventually I like to be in the lane that I'm going to need to be in to turn eventually.
Yes.
And he doesn't like that. He's like, you need to maneuver around, like Mr. Defensive Driving over there. Who, by the way, tapped a motorcycle this morning, so he's not that great of a driver.
We're just saying.
Just saying. Don't tell me how to drive.
Yeah, so, but there need to be classes in all these things because this is life. This is normal life.
Yes. I mean, we do have to teach, for instance, driver's ed.
Yes.
It's a class you got to take.
But I feel like, didn't they do away with driver's ed?
Yeah, not in school.
You sent your kids to that driving school.
I did.
And you told me about it.
Yes.
And then I sent my kids.
Yeah, they don't
to
teach
that
it at our
school.
schools anymore. They have an FLVS, like, written online course for the written test, but there's no skills portion.
Yeah.
I will never forget my driver's ed teacher. She was the best. She was this... I think she was probably a smoker. She was a large woman. Our cars were big old hoopties. And her favorite thing to tell us was, stop pussyfooting around. Like, get on the gas is what she was saying.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
You would never be able to do that with kids in school today because it's a different time now. But back in the 90s.
The local dealership provided cars for us to learn how, and we drove them around. I feel like it was the track or something.
Really?
Yeah.
We were on the road, but we lived in the country. Yeah. There was no busy roads. You couldn't get very far.
Well, Melbourne was pretty country back then.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
We had a drawbridge until I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, for the one that we have now? Really?
The Melbourne Bridge, it was a drawbridge.
Oh my gosh, you are old. I'm
just playing. It did. No, you're not. It's true. We had a drawbridge, and they built that. They built that bridge. They built one span, and then they built the other one like the next year.
Wow.
Yeah. So first it was just the one span.
Yeah.
And then they built the other one.
Wow, that's so cool. I would love to see pictures of that. Yeah. I'm sure there's some in those like old historical books that we have around the office. Yeah.
It was, we had a real drawbridge, like not a tourney drawbridge,
so kind of like the
raised drawbridge.
The one that's up at Mathers.
Well, Mathers is a tourney one. Oh. We had a real drawbridge, like it went
up.
Yeah, like don't get on it and have it like go up and you'll be falling off.
Right, yeah.
And it would go off and it was always like,
yeah.
You know, if you hit the drawbridge, you were there forever.
Yeah, I can imagine.
For the boats to go through. Yeah.
Wow.
Let's not talk about how old Carolyn is, but yeah. Okay, let's see. What did I think we finished all this, didn't we?
Did, yeah. I think.
Oh, investment account. I do want to say, just because my son has a job at Publix, go Publix, and he's putting away his money, and I'm like, how does he invest? He's like, Mom, how do I invest? Which I do know how to do that, but I was like, I'm sure online there is, but none of the people who are professionals at investing money want to take some young kid's like little measly account and help them learn.
Right.
And he doesn't want to just give it to someone. Yeah. He wants to learn
himself
how to invest. And it's like there's not a good...
I play around a little bit with Robinhood because...
Well, that's what I told him, Robinhood. And then somebody told me Betterment.
Okay.
Which I'm not familiar with Betterment, but Robinhood, I'm like, you can do Robinhood. But it would be nice to have like... some sort of...
Well, you know, I heard, and I haven't found it yet, I haven't done a lot of research, but I have heard that there's, I don't know if it's an app or a website that you can go to that basically is like, takes your money and invests it the way that the members of Congress do. So
yes,
you're guaranteed.
Nancy Pelosi.
Yes, just do whatever she's doing. Sell what she's selling,
whatever
buy what she's buying.
Whatever options she has.
I don't have that kind of money like she does, but I need to look into that because I have some stocks that I really like that have done well.
Yeah.
Not a lot though, and I don't invest a ton because like to me it's gambling, and I'm not a gambler.
But that's the thing is, there are very conservative investments where you're still beating the interest rate that you would get in a savings account or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like learning that, like somebody who teaches, if there's really a smart person, you should do like a subscription service.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of people that actually on TikTok there's one that she's like for helping women like grow their wealth, right?
Yeah.
Like she's like a finance guru. I would say that she's the secular Dave Ramsey, but for women.
Really?
Yes. And so she is specifically...
We'll have to tag her.
Yeah. I believe her name's Tori. I'll find it and
We'll
send it to
tag
you.
her. Yeah, we'll tag her.
She might have some courses that you can sign up for, but I haven't investigated
we need one for like young adults.
Yeah, definitely.
Young adults.
Like when you're just starting out.
Yeah, when you don't have like a lot of money.
If I had just listened to all the people that said, if you put this money away every paycheck for...
If you had invested in NVIDIA or Apple stock.
Bitcoin
in 2009
like, really?
when
No
it started.
way. That's not real money.
I didn't even hear about Bitcoin until like 10 years after it was a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
Right.
Until it probably was like at $20,000. And I was like, oh, that's a thing?
Yeah. I'm like, well, I can't afford it now. And now it's at like 100 and something thousand, I think. Like, it's crazy.
Now we really can't afford it.
For real. Like, you can sell my house and just buy some Bitcoin. We can live on the fake money.
live in a tent on the beach.
Yeah.
And then eventually, if Bitcoin does what they say Bitcoin's going to do, then you could buy your house.
buy your house on the beach.
Yeah. We're getting there. All right.
Anything else? That's it for today.
Yep, that's it.
Cheers.
Cheers.